I remember I recently spoke to an amazing chiropractor and I got a bit carried away talking about numbers, like and his numbers, whatever. And he turned around and he said, "Hey, Ryan, I want to be remembered for being a great dad, not a great chiropractor." And I was like, and it took me back a little bit. It challenged me, I was like, how much significance have I got? And how much significance do I get from owning 8 offices, 3,500 visits, $7 million a year, 10,000 new patients, and I've got a young family, and obviously so blessed with homeschool and all that type of thing. So I'll start by saying, when you're in the consulting space, speaking like you do and traveling around the country is a challenge when you're away from your family. So I have to balance that, and I don't always get it right.
Well, welcome to the Vitalistic Voice. My name is Dr. Colin Elkin, and I am really, I'm going to say the third really excited today because this is a gentleman that I have today who I've been following for a long time. And the thing that I really love about him, even though I really am anxiously awaiting the opportunity to connect and get to know him better through this podcast, but Dr. Ryan Rieder really represents the vitalistic principle of chiropractic and obviously has a mission to get that out there, to help chiropractors serve their purpose, advance the profession, see more people, get people out of the medical model and into a chiropractic lifestyle. And he does that so well. So Dr. Ryan, I'm so excited for this conversation. Thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, you're so welcome, and amazing to be with you today. And I think it's really cool and important that you are talking about these subjects, and we can just have one doc or one person serve more people. That'll be a great outcome from today. Even if it's just one, it'll be worth it. So excited to dive in wherever you want to go today.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Well, so I saw you speak a couple of weeks ago at the AFC conference in Toronto. And very inspiring. I mean, you're such an eloquent speaker and you brought such a principled, such an exciting, enthusiastic message. And I would just love to know. So first of all, we touched base a little bit, but I want to first go way back to Dr. Ryan. When you were just younger, how did you get inspired to be a chiropractor growing up in South Africa?
Yeah, so that's such a good place to start because my story is, I was really embarrassed about my story for a long period of time. It wasn't an inspiring story. We've all grown up, Colin, we've all grown up with these amazing chiropractors that we followed up on stage, right? And typically the story goes something like, sick, dying, or equivalent of that. Chiropractic, it was introduced in their life, and miracle, or parents believed in chiropractic and I got adjusted since birth and ever since, and I had none of that. I'd never had a chiropractic adjustment before I went to chiropractic school. One of my best friends and neighbor was studying chiropractic. I was very good at sport at school. I probably spent too much time playing sport. My grades weren't that good. And then I, in my second to last year in South Africa, we call that standard 9, and then we go to something called matric. I was like, oh, well, I played junior national water polo. I swam. I was a good sprinter and things like that. But I didn't play any sport that we're going to put in money in the bank, if you will. So I kind of had to refocus and say, look, I've got to get my stuff together at some point. And as I say, my neighbor was going to study chiropractic. I had no idea what it was. So I went to observe a chiropractor, and I can still remember very clearly the room where it was, a chiropractor that had qualified in the States. And I remember walking in there, and the overarching thing I got was he just looked like he was having fun. And I kind of was like, I think I can pull this off. He just looked like he was talking to people were jumping on tables, jumping off tables. I'll never forget, there was a young lady in there who was getting adjusted, who was a sportsman herself. And that's the truth of how I got involved in it. And then went to chiropractic college. I didn't have the most incredible kind of experience at chiropractic college. I was pretty unmotivated by the time I left. And so much so that I actually didn't want to be a chiropractor by the time I finished college. I won't get too much into it right now unless you want me to. But thank goodness then I went in my first chiropractic associate position. Let's say I was exposed to the principles and saw the light and got to practice an amazing practice. And the rest is history.
Yeah, I was actually quite intrigued when you talk about that, because first of all, I wasn't even aware when we first spoke that there was even a chiropractic school in South Africa.
Yeah.
And you said that wasn't the best experience, but what now that you know what you know now, why would you say that?
I think motivation matters, and I think inspiration matters. So educational institutes have more of a responsibility from a perspective of giving me the basics to go out into the world, and from a clinical perspective and do what we do, let's call it clinical for now. But there's more to it, and life is hard and business is hard and all those type of things. So I think putting no emphasis on inspiration is 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 a big mistake, because even in practice, not every day is peaches and cream and rose petals in practice, right? So for one, it wasn't all that inspiring, and then we weren't surrounded with too much success. So there weren't too many people that were like abundant around us, chiropractors that had massive practices, and those stories of heroes, if you will, that a lot of our North American, let's say, even at the AFC, there's some amazing chiropractors there that have been masterminds, and Liz Anderson Peacock and all these amazing chiropractors are there that we get to stand on the shoulder of giants. So I had no heroes, I had no inspiration, from that perspective. And then subsequently, there was almost no philosophical background to what it is that we do. And even if it is any university that has a certain stance, the three-legged stool of art, science, and philosophy, there was certainly no philosophy leg there for us to hang our hat on, or at least be curious about, or make our own decisions about. I think education is about giving people, options to at least decide, not decide on our behalf. So the big thing was inspiration, more than anything. There wasn't much inspiration.
Yeah. So tell me, so who do you remember poured into you the most, and where did you learn that? Because obviously now you can tell, like you have a presence about you, you have an energy about you that is very inspiring, and you pour into people. Just your presence in being with you and being around you, listening to you speak. Where did that come from?
Look, I think I've always been motivated. I was a very good sportsman at school, and I wanted to win. I wanted to succeed. So I wanted to win at life, and I wanted to provide for my family. And I think it starts there. I had, as a child, I went through, my parents were entrepreneurs and went through some hardships in business. And I think that kind of, which is common, most people have some type of change business, that kind of first of all lit a fire in me that I wanted to be successful and not have my kids go through what I went through, or my wife, or whatever it is. So that was one element to me. And then the other, and then I think, yeah, I wouldn't say it's, I think challenge brings out the best in me. I had recently, let's say in the last 5 years, a big challenge, and my brother said to me, he said, "Oh, watch out. I don't know anyone that responds to a challenge like you do." So it really is fire. It fires me up in many ways. And just to digress a little, I read this incredible book once called I think it's a financial book. It'll come to me now. And anyway, in the book, there was one quote in the book, and it said, after interviewing many, many billionaires and millionaires, what was the number one thing they all had in common? And he said this line that I've never forgotten. It was growth amidst loss, growth amidst loss, growth amidst loss. That even in spite of challenges and things like that, they still had growth. They were able to survive it and grow in it. So I think I came from that background with my parents. They actually went bankrupt twice. So that was part of my inspiration. And then I think chiropractic, we're so blessed to come into it, because there is inspiration in chiropractic. You go to a chiropractic conference and you do feel inspired. I don't think there are too many industries or professions that are like that. I mean, I can't imagine going to a dental practice. I mean, I'm sure dentistry is amazing, but I can't imagine going to a dentistry conference and walking out of there going, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait to set people's lives on fire." So I think I always say, I found chiropractic founded me. I didn't find chiropractic. So hope that answers your question somewhat.
That's amazing. That's incredible. So tell me a little bit about living in South Africa, getting out of school, and then you made the decision to leave the country and go to the UK. So how did
Yes.
that all transpire?
My wife is also a chiropractor and studied with me. For those of you who don't know, I've got 5 first-generation chiropractors in my family. So me, my wife, my brother, his wife, and my sister-in-law are chiropractors. One of my sister-in-laws ran 4 of our offices at one point, and my mother-in-law did the count. So we're all in to this chiropractic thing. My mother-in-law is British, and then my parents had moved to the UK prior to me qualifying. Most people might not know this. There's a lot of talk about South Africa right now in the media whenever you're listening to this, but there's a 30+% unemployment rate in South Africa and a 60% youth unemployment rate in South Africa, highest in the world. So I think whenever you're going as an entrepreneur, you go, wow, to run a business when there's 30% unemployment and 60% youth unemployment in a country, that played on my mind a little bit. And it's very South African to do at least 2 years in the United Kingdom after qualifying. So we went down that path with not much more planned. It was just, let's go to the UK, let's learn and grow. And we didn't know whether we were going to stay or not. And then we were there 14 years.
Wow. And so now let's move on to this. And you know, I think you mentioned to me that you spend half the time in the UK and half the time in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, not quite those numbers, but certainly we snowbird if a little bit. So we've recently relocated to Sarasota in Florida, and we still have a home in the United Kingdom. So we spend our time between the two countries. And for anyone listening, we homeschool, which is a relatively recent thing for us. So we've just come back from a month in South Africa. So we're living a little nomadically, as they say right now, Colin, which also has its challenges, but we're thoroughly enjoying it. I run a digital marketing agency. We've worked with over 500 chiropractors now, practices, and then we have the largest consulting and coaching group in the United Kingdom and Europe, and now based in America and helping people in North America and Canada. So yeah, so now I'm in Florida.
So I'd love to dive into that because that's exactly what we do here, you know, consulting chiropractors in Canada, helping them grow and through the United States, and as well as helping chiropractors market and grow their practice specifically to get the chiropractic principles and message out into the community so that the community
Yeah,
understands what chiropractic is. And that's really
yeah,
where it comes down to.
yeah.
So tell me about that. How did that start to grow? How did you know, the creation of that? And let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges in that realm.
Okay, so I spoke at the event, Colin, a bit about my challenge of public speaking when I was at school. You would have seen me speak live on stage, and I won't give too much away on this podcast because if you hear me speak live, it's probably a story better heard live. But long story short, at school I was a terrible public speaker, and I think that Tony Robbins says life doesn't happen to you; it happens for you. Les Brown says you often teach the thing you most want to become, not the thing you are best at, but the thing you most want to become, and the teacher always learns the most. So when I got to United Kingdom, I went to a few conferences and things like that. One being T. Harv Eker's Millionaire Mind Intensive, who's Canadian, T. Harv Eker. And I remember sitting in the audience and he was advertising this course about public speaking and I had this knot in my stomach. At the time, I just started working. I was broke as you can be. And I can't remember what the course was at the time. But I really felt like I had to do it. And I remember turning to my wife, and my wife, when I turned and looked at my wife, she had the credit card in her hand. And she slapped it across my chest and basically said, you have to do this. This is like, you're born to do this. And then I went and did courses and seminars and learned how to do public speaking and stuff. And then from that, a group saw I was doing relatively well at business at the time and said, hey, do you want to teach some business principles from stage? And I toured with them and then spoke with T. Harv Eker's organization and then toured with Robert Kiyosaki, met Tony Robbins, introduced the Wolf of Wall Street, Jay Abraham, all people like that on stage. So I was kind of like the T-boy in that world and just got to learn from everyone as much as possible. And then I got the gift of stage time. So I just got on stage. And then if you're public speaking, if you do workshops in your practice, when you stand up in front of people and you share a message, you typically get positioned as the authority. And then people started asking me, I'll never forget the first person that came to me as I walked off stage, said, hey, do you coach? I said, yes. I hadn't coached anyone yet, and he was my first customer. And then that spiraled to a multi-seven-figure business that we help chiropractors all over the world. So it literally started like that, you know, first sharing the message, and then people going, yeah, okay, well, I think I'd like to learn from you.
That's
I've got
incredible.
lots of challenges in the industry if you ever want to dive into that.
Oh, for sure. And that's exactly why I want to talk about this conversation, because that's certainly something that we experience as well as a company in helping chiropractors grow. So you tell me, what do you find when you take on clients? What is your mission? What is your unique selling proposition to clients? And what are you trying to help them accomplish? And then what are some of the biggest challenges in getting there?
I think that the marketplace has had many chiropractors sell templates, blueprints, checklists, scripts, and they're all very important. I just think that probably what I'm really, I don't want to be so arrogant to say the best at, but because I've had so much experience with running so many practices and so many associates and so many CAs and now so many clients, I'm a great brainstorm partner. And I don't think we put enough, I think we put But I don't think we put enough emphasis on that, because you jump off the call with with a coach, and you may not be able to go. You may not always be able to go, gee, I can see the massive return on investment from that call, but it keeps you sane. And in business, they call it a sparring partner. So I always say I'm the best sparring partner you can have. And sometimes I will be devil's advocate to give you a different to just make you think. So I love that type of coaching, where it's like, let's brainstorm, let's debrief. What direction are you going? Big thinking, big picture stuff. And then I think from a challenge perspective, having Coach Colin, and you're going to have the same experience with this. We work with such a massive different age range of chiropractors. I think we're going back to the future. I think there is this weird writing off of some of the old, let's call old strategies to grow a business. And they say two things. One, observe the masses and do the opposite. Okay, that's the first thing. So if you look at let's say, and we run digital marketing agencies, right? So it sounds strange me saying this, but you should absolutely have a digital marketing plan, but not replacing your everything from, I know it sounds old school, but your business cards, your workshops, your dinners, your patient orientation class, your tours, your postcards, your newsletters, your emails, your texts, your phone calls, your first adjustment phone calls. It's almost like those things are being like, oh, wow, they're out of fashion. And I'm telling you, we're going back to the future, because you want to be showing up where nobody else is showing up. So for example, there was a time in our career, in our profession, Colin, where almost every chiropractor would send a print newsletter to their patients. When I say that to an audience now, I'm perceived, even though I'm one of the youngest talking about this stuff, I'm perceived to be some type of dinosaur, but I'm telling you, we're going back to the future, where it's the reason we want to do those things, and the postcards and the handwritten notes and the first adjustment calls, is because nobody else is doing it. So we want to go back to the stuff. We want to show up when nobody else is showing up anymore, and nobody's showing up in the post box anymore as a chiropractor, whether it's a newsletter, etc. So every Tom, Dick, and Harry's got a Facebook ad out. So you need that also. But I'd say that's the challenge I see. And then for maybe younger chiropractors, this idea of having to step outside of your front door to get new customers seems like such a sounds like such an inconvenience.
It's true.
To go shake hands, show up to the networking events, etc. It seems like such an inconvenience to people, when, hey, it still works. And not only that, it's arguably that it's showing a better return on investment these days compared to a lot of strategies out there. So those are just talk to some of those challenges.
So I completely agree. And I think that's a brilliant strategy. Back to the future, I think that's a wonderful coined term.
Yeah.
And here's the biggest thing, and this is some of the challenges that we find, is that there are so many different schools of thought in chiropractic, so many different philosophies, if you will, depending on where a chiropractor graduated. If they didn't graduate from a vitalistic, principled, subluxation-based school, and they're trying to build a business that's based on treatment of symptoms or some other modality, whatever that may be, it's a challenge to really create a model that's consistent. And chiropractors want to build a big practice, but if they're selling pain relief, that then becomes a challenge, because I always say two things happen. When a person comes to see you because of symptom care, pain relief, they leave for two reasons. The pain goes away and they leave, or the pain doesn't go away and they leave. So how do you find dealing with this when you get all kinds of different clients with different schools of thought, different philosophies? How do you create a branding or marketing program for those individual offices?
Yeah, I mean, with difficulty is the first thing. I think that you will be familiar with this, but I think that chiropractors say they want good quality in new patients. So let's start with that. The first thing is being great at the thing you do, right? I mean, that's referrals are the greatest way to build a practice, and I think we still have to have a long, hard look in the mirror if people aren't referring to us. So that's the first thing I'd say from that perspective, and then also, again, like, quality is created with, I always say this: time with increases conversions. Time with meaning consumption of your time with spending time with you, like time in talks, time consuming your content, etc. Things like that. They'll increase quality, etc. And just to talk to the no pain thing, I do think that I've never seen, for me, I've never seen the market so primed to primed and open to a different message around health. And I think COVID did us the biggest favor ever by just making people skeptical. I think there was a
Mhm.
time when that first, whether it's a COVID shot came out, you were ostracized for even remotely questioning it. Now it's a fact. Now it's not even it's a given fact that the side effects that we once questioned as being conspiracy theorists are just a fact. It's not even I just recently saw a pharmaceutical company has been ordered to put it on there. It's not even a fact. It's not even a question now. It's on the label now, the side effects of X, Y, and Z. So building that branding is important. But then let's say this: if the chiropractor wants new patients fast, that's opposite from getting new quality, because it takes time. So if you're going to speak to, and Dan Kennedy talks about this, he's like, it's easier to preach to the converted than to convert the masses. There's a tribe of people out there, Dr. Colin, who are going to resonate, maybe not identically to your philosophy, but they're going to be intrigued by your message, being your body, guys. Like, how did we get to a place in humanity where we have so little faith in the body's ability to heal itself? And if you are someone that wants to, work with me to get your body to a point where it can be at its optimal healing potential again, I'm your guy or girl. If you want just pain relief, I'm pretty sure there's a guy down the road who can help you just standing on the street corner if you want a quick pain relief. So I think when you preach that message, then you're going to start attracting your tribe to you that you want to do. And then those customers or those new patients are good, but that's not fast. So if you
Mhm.
want speed, if you come to a marketing agency, you're like, I want new patients yesterday, then you have to expect the pain-based patients,
Right.
because it's not going to be, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's very difficult to get the customers who are pre-framed, who have heard your messaging over time, who resonate with your messaging, because that type of marketing takes time. So we can't have our cake and eat it, unfortunately, when it comes to this idea of having pre-sold patients before they walk in the door. Is only really possible, in my experience, from two things, and that's referrals and some type of workshop / educational process, because you had a chance to really tell them who you are in both of those, really. And then they can decide on their own accord whether they want to engage with your service based on your messaging or not. So as opposed to going with here's the offer for the relief, we may be able to get you leads, there's a time and place for this, but you're not going to be getting those pre-qualified. There's no such thing as pre-sold, but let's say pre-qualified patients. Yeah.
Sure, sure. And I know, it's interesting. You bring up all kinds of different thoughts in my mind. And I know I'm quite sure you're familiar with Daniel Priestley, who talks about Robin Dunbar's numbers, the 7-11-4 rule, 7 hours, 11 touch points on 4 different platforms. And we talk about that in chiropractic circles, is that you have to have the branding in place so people understand who you are. If you're going to go run ads to try to attract leads then, even if they respond to your ad, it's common. They're going to look you up. They're going to Google you. They're going to go to your website. They're going to go to your social media page. They're going to try to figure out, who am I going to see? So it's so vital to have a brand, have a reputation in place. And you nailed it by saying, to be able to spend the time to go out and talk to communities, talk to sports teams, talk to support groups, go to companies and create relationships. That's when people get to really know and trust you. And I'm sure you would agree, that's what really builds a long-term lifetime wellness care practice where people just want to be in.
Yeah, but even talking about it out loud, and there's nothing easy about it, I guess,
Right.
which is nice, which we have to address, is that, yeah, it's anything worthwhile, yeah, it takes work.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me now. So I mean, obviously you're very busy with the company, and where does it go from here? Do you have any big visions in chiropractic where you'd like to see the profession go, or where you'd like to see your business go, or the impact you'd like to make?
Well, I'll start by saying I'm a young dad. So the first thing I'll start by saying, I have a 5 and an 8-year-old. So I'd start by saying, I caveat everything, and I am like this, but I remember I recently spoke to an amazing chiropractor, and I got a bit carried away talking about numbers with him, like, and his numbers, whatever. And he turned around and he said, "Hey, Ryan, um, I want to be remembered for being a great dad, not a great chiropractor. And I was like, and it took me back a little bit. It challenged me, you know. I was like, whew, like, you know, how much significance have I got? And how much significance do I get from, I don't know, owning 8 offices, 3,500 visits, $7 million a year, 10,000 new patients, you know, and I've got a young family, and obviously we're so blessed with homeschool and all that type of thing. So I'll start by saying, when you're in the consulting space, speaking like you do and traveling around the country is a challenge. When you're away from your family, so I have to balance that, and I don't always get it right. But certainly, that's one factor to consider right now. And then from my personal, but the good news about consulting and agency and all that is it's an, I wouldn't say old man's game, but we have time, and I've got lots of time. So yeah, I love speaking. I love being on stage, and I love making impact. It's my happy place. You've seen me on stage. Hopefully, I look like I enjoyed it. And if you told me, my family wouldn't love it, but if you told me I was in a different city every weekend, or Friday, Saturday, or Thursday, Friday, preferably, and I was speaking to a different group of 50 chiropractors for 40 weeks a year, I would probably be as happy as a pig in you know what. But the reality is I have to balance that with running my business and my family. So right now, this week alone, I think we've had about 15 inquiries from chiropractors this week. So we're growing the agency and we're trying to get better. And it's an interesting time for agencies, Colin. I mean, we've got AI. Like now the question is, how do we get chiropractors to rank when you say who's the best chiropractor in said city? How do we get that to come on AI? And the truth is, I don't know yet, you know, which is new. And we've got a new AI product. So that's keeping me busy and you busy, I'm sure, and challenged. So there's a lot, the marketplace is moving very quickly. And as of yesterday, I don't know if you saw the new Google VO3 Flow release. And it's an AI video maker. It's text to video prompts. It is the most outrageous thing I've ever seen in my life. I tell you, I saw like a professional review on it. If the people in Hollywood aren't absolutely quaking in their boots when you see this, the quality of this thing, you can set it's just text to video. It's just outrageous. So, you know, as an agency, right now we're in just learning mode and preparing and trying to see where the puck is going, as they say. And then from that perspective, if I was someone that gave people hope and grew their practices, and I'm not, a lot of people come to me and say, I'd like to do what you did and build multiple practices. I probably get less joy from that, and I get more joy from helping a chiropractor who owns a small to medium business, serve their communities and make a great living and provide a great life for their family. And then hopefully more chiropractors come from that family. So probably my greatest joy comes from someone who goes, I live a great life and you've helped me double or triple my practice. And we have an amazing practice full of incredible practice members. And when I see them filling workshops with educational talks and we're talking about what it is we do as chiropractors, that gives me so much joy. I get so proud when I see them doing, you know, your patient appreciation events, like building a community in their practice. That gives me more joy than helping someone build 8 practices.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree 100%. So can I ask you, how personally involved are you in the business, in coaching, dealing with chiropractors, sales, marketing? How personally involved? Do you have teams doing all of that?
No, when I owned my 8 practices, or now as a coach or consultant, which one?
Well, as a coaching consultant now.
As a coaching consultant, I do, there's different levels to my coaching. If you want to work one-on-one with me, I do every coaching call. I'm still very involved. I'm the only one that does those coaching calls within my business. We have got, follow-up coaches and CA support calls and things like that. But from a one-on-one perspective, that's what I really enjoy that. Actually, I really enjoy brainstorming and being a brainstorm partner with someone. So fully involved in that. With the agency, I am involved with kind of strategy, filling the discovery calls, sales. I do sales calls still a little bit with the agency and help people decide whether we are the right agency for them. But I don't do any of the technical aspects of the business. So I don't do any of the obviously lead gen or ads or websites or anything like that. I do nothing technical in the agency. I just from a strategy perspective. I have to jump in every now and again because, you know, whether it's following up with leads or everything like that, I can still give a lot of support to the team about the best practices there.
What's your favorite part of everything that you do so far?
Oh, it's difficult. It's an interesting question. I love I love the speaking. Um, but sometimes, Colin, when you don't have a week, sometimes when I have a week where it's time blocked and I've got no coaching calls and no speaking in different countries, and I get really stuck into the business, and I meet with all my team members and I have my leadership meetings, sometimes create the biggest impact that week. So if you'd ask me, I'm great at what I do at speaking and coaching and consulting, but sometimes I have the best time working on the core of the business at time. Let's call it the non, the not the minutiae, or not the. I like getting into that stuff. So I would probably say, I'd probably say this, if I had to give me one thing, if you said you're only allowed to do one thing in your business and one thing only, I'd probably be the speaking, either virtually or live in the room.
And so this is interesting conversation. And I just had a podcast yesterday with another gentleman, Dr. Kevin Jackson. You probably know Kevin. And we talked about this exact topic. And I always said that through our 30 years of practice, my main goal with every single person that came in was to share the principle of chiropractic with them. I wanted them to at least hear the principle of chiropractic. And if it resonated with them, I know that they would love chiropractic and become a lifelong patient. And I know that if it didn't resonate with them, then they would find a way somewhere else to get the care that they needed or they wanted in a different direction, which would therefore help us grow the practice of our dreams that we wanted to grow, a congruent practice. So we talked about that. And, I said that was my favorite part of everything was sharing the principle, seeing the light bulb go off in people's eyes. And it still is to this point. I would say this podcast is the most fun that I have in my daily
Wow.
everything that I do. But it all boils down with that. And I feel, and you just said it, when you're excited about what you do, when you're excited about going and speaking and sharing the principle with people and sharing your enthusiasm and your joy and your heart, everything else falls into place. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think you said it really nicely. I think for me, there was a book called Flow, written by it's it's a very complicated surname, something like Meek Kalowitz or something like that. Anyway, it's a really book written about flow and the process of being in flow. And athletes and mathematicians and musicians talk about it. When they say they're in the zone,
Yeah.
you know, and when you're playing a musical instrument and you're trying to learn a thing, and you look up at the classic with it is you look up. Or for me, it happened in busy adjustment set. Busy adjustment set. You look up and like, where did time go? Okay. So
Mhm.
in a nutshell, that's the process of flow. But when people were asked about their feelings when they were involved in flow, well, first of all, the people that are involved in flow, the activity of flow the most, were the happiest people on the planet. But the actual process, the process of engaging in flow was absent of any emotion, meaning there was no obtuse or obvious happiness in that moment. In fact, with mathematicians and music, if you try to use a musical instrument, it's aggravating almost to a point of like it's so challenging. So what they found was that there was a lack of what we would call happiness. Like there was a lack of yay, joy, and everything's just lagging there a little bit. I'm not sure, but there's a lack of apps like in just massive joy. But still, they were the happiest people when they were involved in the process of flow. So for me, anything that makes me be present, when I'm adjusting someone and at busy adjustment set, I had to be present. And and I struggle with that sometimes with the young family and all those type of things. When I'm watching live sport in the stadium, I'm present. When I'm watching theater, I love theater. I'm present. When I'm on stage, I am present because I'm going to look like an idiot if I'm not. Recently, as a 40-year-old male, went snow skiing for the first time in my life. I've been water skiing many times. Again, I just got off the mountain and I felt amazing because I had to be. If I'm not present while I'm skiing, I'm gonna see my behind. Yes. So for me, Colin, whenever I'm present, I while it may lack like quote unquote happiness in the moment, I'm happy for being in the state of flow.
Yes. Yeah, that so eloquently said. That's fantastic. And that's such a great analogy. We talk to our clients about, getting into state and preparing before you even go see patients, preparing, getting your mind right, getting yourself right. Because when you're in state and you see people, people get better faster. People have better response and it's more fulfilling. I always found it's more fulfilling for me when I'm in state, when I'm mentally, physically present, spiritually present with that person. That's when I gave the best adjustments and the best care.
Yeah, and people can tell, hey, like people can tell when you're not 100% present with that patient.
100%.
And I mean, everyone listening to this right now has all been humbled by going through the motions of adjustment set and what's it, the flying seven or whatever, and
Yes,
getting the
yes.
process and being caught out, you know. We've all been there, you know, where we weren't in the moment and we did hurt someone, or when I say hurt someone, I mean that really, really loosely. But we weren't on our game, on our game, you know, and it's just a lesson for us all that sometimes just being present with patients is the best marketing strategy.
But isn't that the truth with everything? I mean, when
Yeah,
you talk about
true, true.
relationships, when you talk about performance. I play the guitar. I know exactly what you're talking about. When I play and I can be in the flow and in the zone, it feels better. It sounds better. Everything works the way it's supposed to
Yeah.
work. So I totally understand where you're coming from. So I want to ask you just to kind of sum up here. I'd love to ask you, what over the course of your life, over the course of your career, what was the best advice that you ever received from somebody?
Hmm. I I guess we have in my household we have my kids are homeschooled now. But before we leave the house, my kids have three sentences we say to each other, and it's be kind, try your best, and then probably the third one, if I had to, never give up. So I'd probably say the process of, um, what would you attempt if you knew everything was going to be fine, and then I guess I'd probably say that never give up, everything will be fine, kind of mixed in there, something along those lines. That's probably the best advice I've ever given. And then make mistakes fast. So you're going to make lots of mistakes. Go out there and make a mess. If you can cope, there's so many that come to mind. But if you can cope, you're not. If you can cope, you're probably not going fast enough.
And
If
then
you like,
yeah,
yeah.
I
So
agree.
so
I agree.
so something like if I'm feeling overwhelmed, so I actually coined this as in a coaching call. I don't think there's such a thing as overwhelmed. I think it's normal whelmed, where I think that just normal life is overwhelming at times. So when we say like I'm so overwhelmed, like a deer in the headlights or whatever, I'm like I just think that's normal whelmed. I think it's to achieve anything is an element of normal whelmed, not overwhelmed. I think we need to change that concept or that analogy around it. So I'm actually not going to answer that all that well, but I think the thing that came up for me was never give up.
Yeah. So
And
so on that
it's such a
note,
cliche. Sorry.
yeah. No, let me ask you this. So on that note, what advice did you get in your lifetime that did not resonate with you and caused you or influenced you to do the opposite?
I think the worst advice I ever got was around branding. So I was taught at some point in my career that you don't want to be the face of the business because you can never sell the business. And it's just not true. I mean, Tom Ford, which everyone knows the glasses and brand. I mean, you literally couldn't be more a name, and that business sold for I don't know hundreds of millions. So I think probably the worst advice I ever got was, "Hey, don't be the brand or don't be the face of your practice. You don't have to. You don't. It doesn't have to be Ryan Ryder's, you know, incorporated or or Dr. Ryan's practice. But being the face of your branding, I think, and being a brand and being the face of your branding, I only really embraced that in my late 30s because I was taught. I built 8 offices, and I was told that if you're going to sell this thing, you should never be the brand, and that was terrible advice. I should absolutely have been in every video. I should absolutely have been driving that. I should absolutely have been in the videos and the online videos and all those type of things. And I was always so scared to be on it because so that's probably the worst advice I ever got. And you brought up Daniel Priestley recently, so he was a guest speaker at one of our masterminds, and he was and that's kind of his thing is that the personal brand is just about the most important thing ever right now. So that's probably the worst advice I ever got was don't be the face of your company. It's
Yeah.
oh gosh,
And
you should
that's and I
absolutely.
I think that's huge, Ryan, in chiropractic. I mean, and Daniel Priestley talks about that. In fact, you look at all of these multi-billion-dollar companies, and there is a person that's leading the way. You look at Tesla and it's Elon. You look at
Apple.
Apple, and people still coin Steve Jobs as even though he's been gone now for what, 13, 14 years. So it is very true. And this is one thing that we talk about with our docs and our clients is that they have to get into the public eye. They have to, as you say, become good communicators, good public speakers, so that people can capture their vision and share their vision. I think this is brilliant conversation. I love this.
I think I just jumped off a call with a chiropractor today. We're his seventh agency. He's going on to
Wow.
seventh,
Wow.
and he said to me, "Are there just some areas that are like, is there such a thing? It's just some areas that are really difficult to get results." And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. There are some areas." And he was like, "You're the first agency that's ever said that to me." And I'm like, "How? How am I the first agency that ever said, there are just some areas that are, there can't be this, it's not, if out of seven agencies, we're all getting similar results, whatever, and there are some strategies we can bring in. But to your point, the thing that'll shift it for that struggling practice is if I had to just click my fingers and and that chiropractor gets interviewed by Oprah Winfrey, everything changes.
Everything
Everything,
changes. Yeah.
everything changes. I mean, there's nothing that can possibly change the fate of someone's life than some type of, let's call it celebrityism or positioning or branding. Let's call a spade a spade. If any one of our customers gets interviewed on the Oprah Winfrey Show, they do not need us. They are done. They will have more new patients than they'll ever have in their entire life. So just to that branding thing is, how do we build a brand? How do we build a talk show type thing? How do we get our message out there? How do we share the message a bit more? So I just thought, yeah, that's my angle on that.
That's excellent. I love it. I absolutely love it. So I want to give you the opportunity. This is something I've been doing with my guests lately is I want to do a little role reversal here. If you can think of a question for me, what would
Yeah.
you ask? Here we are in the profession of chiropractic. What would you ask me?
Okay, so I would ask you, what's one thing that as a coach and agency that you wish that chiropractors would let go of? So the attachment to what? If I had said to you, hey, what's something that I wish more chiropractors would be able to let go of their attachment to? I don't know, is it a certain type of lead or a certain type of new patient? Is it, what comes up to you when I say that? What's one
That's
thing you wish chiropractors let go of or moved on from?
yeah, excellent question. And I would say this is what I have found in dealing, coaching clients for the last 20 years and having the privilege, really the opportunity to talk to so many different chiropractors is that I feel that chiropractors, depending on their introduction to chiropractic and their experience in going through chiropractic school, have had a set mindset, but that mindset has not been their own. It's been drilled into them, and their unwillingness to open their mind to other philosophies or other styles of practice, or to accept the fact that chiropractic is beautiful and the fact that we do have this philosophy, but the delivery and the art of chiropractic can be very different. And I think we are the worst profession for circling ourselves and throwing darts at each other and criticizing each other. And what happens is the public doesn't have a clear definition of what we do as a result of that. So that would be my biggest thing, is that I would hope that as a profession, we can collectively embrace each other, embrace the fact that we came from a philosophy, but to be able to accept the different modes of delivery of that philosophy to the public, to know that we are unique, to know that we are something different than medicine. We are truly what healthcare represents and not any part of sickness care.
Nuts. I'll ask another question. What's the single, what's one marketing strategy that you wish every chiropractor, if you had to click your fingers and every chiropractor just magically did one thing in their practice, no matter what, what's the one thing that you wish every chiropractor did that would grow the practice?
Oh, that brilliant. So one of the things that really built our practice was we had a community dinner program. And we just started it based on the fact that it was our way of basically saying thank you to our community for just allowing us the opportunity to grow such a wonderful practice, make an income, grow our family. And so we just started inviting people out to dinner. We would have an advanced talk. We would invite some other vendors who were patient, practice members in our practice. If they had congruent products or services that they would sell, be it massage therapy or maybe natural cleaning products, whatever, we would allow them to set up at the dinner. We would get some live entertainment, and we would just have a basic time to love and share with those patients. And what happened was people would start bringing their guests, they would bring their spouses, they would bring their families. And if we did a talk and just shared the love and share the principle of chiropractic, what would happen is that just by osmosis, those people would want to come in and become patients of our office because they just resonated with us. They got to know us. And that was the biggest driver of our practice. And we grew a practice to well over 1,000 visits a week. And for many, many years, it was fun. It just created a lot
How,
of fun.
how often did you do the dinner?
We varied at times, but it ended up being every 6 to 8 weeks. So we were doing, in fact, we had a contract with the local hotel because they had a conference room, and we called it the Italian wedding dinner. So we would go and have anywhere between 250 and 350 people out at a dinner every 6 to 8 weeks. So we typically did about 6 to 7 a year, and it was great. So we had an
And
agreement with them.
how did you get them in the room? So what is the marketing to get six with 200 people in the room, six to
It
eight weeks?
was it was literally it was all referrals, 100%. So we would make up invitations in our office. We would hand
Yes,
out personal invitations to our patients.
yes.
Many in our team, we trained on this. Our team were ninjas at this. They were so good, and they would encourage people to bring a table of guests. And they said, if you bring a full table of guests, we'll reserve a table up to the front, and then you get your first trip up to the buffet. You'll get ahead of everybody else up to the
Wow.
buffet. We had 4 buffet lines so that we could get all 300 people through, 350 people through in about 10 to 15 minutes all through the buffet line, then sit down, and then we would do an advanced talk while they were talking and talk about chiropractic. So it was wonderful. I loved
That's awesome.
it. It was
That's
fun.
awesome.
So, and this is the thing is that I think, and one of the biggest joys I have now is helping chiropractors develop these types of strategies to have fun. Practice needs to be fun. I see so many chiropractors, and I'm sure you do too, that are burned out, that are tired. Many, especially here in Canada, that have these symptom-based practices where they're giving away their time, and they spend 20 to 30 minutes with each person, and they're getting paid by workers' compensation, or they're getting paid by insurance, and they come home at the end of the day after seeing 10, 12, 15, 16 patients in that amount of time, and they're exhausted, mentally and physically exhausted. And there's just such another world of chiropractic that is so fulfilling.
And there's a great marketer. His name's Joe Polish, and he used to say the goal of business is to have an ELF business. That's ELF, and it was easy, lucrative, and fun. That was Joe Polish's way of putting it. And I think when you hear you talk, it's like, yeah, we want an ELF practice. We want an easy
Yeah.
practice that's lucrative and it's fun. And normally, if you do more of those things, you're going to resonate with more of those people that want you and the way you stand, the way you talk, and what you stand for. So, yeah, maybe that's a good place for us to kind of wrap up and go,
Yeah.
guys, let's aim for that. Is an easy, lucrative, fun business.
And I think if you find what you love and you do what you love, then everything else falls into place. The money falls into place. The people around you fall into place. You attract the right people into your life because you vibrate at a different frequency. So I think that if that's the biggest thing that we can kind of sum up with, is that if we do what we love in whether that's in chiropractic or any profession, then everything just tends to fall into place.
I love that, Doc.
Dr. Ryan, this has been an absolute pleasure. Man, I could keep talking. I mean, we're definitely vibrating on a similar frequency. So I love your energy. I definitely want to keep in touch and let us know. So as we sum up here, and I'm going to include this in the text below this video, how can people get in touch with you?
Well, I have a website called dcpracticegrowth.com. It kind of says what it is on the tin. And if you go to the website, there's some free downloads and there's some free books and stuff like that to go grab on the website. So that's what I'd say. Just visit my website and then reach out and reach out to me or follow me on Facebook. And I'll probably say, yeah, best place is the website.
Fantastic. Dr. Ryan Rieder, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Dr. Colin. I appreciate you and well done. You're doing such an awesome job. And geez, what an opportunity to be coached by someone who ran a practice with over 1,000 visits a week. So, I always joke with people and say you've forgotten more than most people know. So what a blessing, what a blessing. I know you are in so many practices. So thanks for all you do.